Hello, hello, hello. Happy full moon in Scorpio. It's 4:56 at the moment, and the full moon in Scorpio officially occurred at 4:48 Pacific Standard Time. So that's when the moon and the sun are opposing each other exactly, and this one is at 4 degrees and 17 minutes. Today is the 23rd of April. I'm not sure when this is actually gonna hit YouTube, but yeah, it's been an interesting past couple days. Like, we just had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on Saturday, and we're definitely still in the reverberations of that energy. Jupiter is only like half a degree away from Uranus, so Jupiter at 22 degrees and Uranus at 21. And so it's still definitely, you know, stirring up a lot of, the Jupiter-Uranus energy was a lot of unexpected divine disruptions, very disruptive energy, but all in the best ways, and it can bring sudden, unexpected blessings. And the universe is really testing us with this full moon to see how persistent we can be with our goals. Like, it is a test of perseverance and integrity, and I consider this kind of like an experience of twisted tests. And there's a lot of energies circulating around this full moon that kind of bend the energies of the sun in Taurus and the moon in Scorpio. And specifically, I'm talking about Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, the modern ruler of Scorpio, and it is currently in Aquarius, which is another fixed sign. So these three fixed signs are all very stubborn, and they're at this point where they're being tested to go in one direction or another. And it's more about like really balancing those two energies of Taurus and Scorpio, which Taurus is more like patient and stable and wanting to have that loving and comfortable abundant feeling, like really having the security of fulfillment and feeling good and comfortable, stable, just like, secure. And on the opposite end is Scorpio, which is an energy that gravitates towards the shadows. It's the god of the underworld. Pluto is, and Scorpio is connected to the underworld and everything that lays beneath, kind of like the iceberg, where you have the part of the iceberg that you can actually see, but so much of it is underwater, which is very, like, if you're floating along the water and you hit the iceberg, you could not see the part of the iceberg that is hidden and like run into it and damage your vehicle, your sailboat, or whatever it might be. But yeah, there's so much more that lies beneath, and with the shadows of Scorpio, this can look like shame, fear, doubt, paranoia, fears of scarcity, and Scorpio does, it's the roots of, if you think about the Scorpio-Taurus axis, Scorpio is the roots of a plant, and it like pulls the nutrients from the soil, and it is in order to provide life and vitality to the Taurus end, which is abundance and fulfillment and flowering, and that's where you see the flowers and the budding and all this life above ground. And Scorpio, the rulers of Scorpio are Pluto, the modern ruler, and Mars, the traditional ruler. And Pluto is considered to also be related to wealth and gems and riches, because diamonds are found underground, along with crystals. Like, people dig for crystals and gold, and they go to those swamps, not swamps, but like the rivers where you're like panning for gold. You have to like dig and like really sift through a lot of the dirt and mud and whatnot to really find the gold. And so this kind of like metaphor is something that we can relate to our own healing, where we're sifting through all these dark emotions, these heavy emotions of feeling insecure and shame about how we're moving through life now. And with this Pluto square the moon and the sun, Pluto being in Aquarius, which is a sign of authenticity and individuality and rebellion, like Pluto is wanting to transform this collective authenticity and really bring it to the surface. But we have to like really dig in deep and uproot those toxic whatever it might be, behaviors, feelings, emotions, habits, in order to get to the good stuff, get to the truth of things. And once we find this deep truth, then we can make that transformation, and we can be that phoenix rising from the ashes and become this like renewed, like have this renewed sense of self that is more in alignment with who we've always felt we are. It's like having that overdue renewal. And this square to the full moon, the square to the moon and sun is really challenging us to step into that. And if you're a Leo, which is another fixed sign, then this is really going to be a grand fixed square for you, where your desire to perform and be in that like fun, heart-centered space is going to challenge you to be more authentic. And the fixed signs are very stubborn, so this can be pretty straining on the nervous system. And so it's really important to like practice those grounding habits and just taking the time to make sure that we're not like overdoing ourselves. Like with the Jupiter-Uranus energies that have been that are playing out, and then this full moon in Scorpio, where it's like this twisted test of how persistent we can be in achieving these goals and like staying true to our intentions. There's a balance that we have to strike, where we have to realize like how much can we handle, how much integrity can we bring while still taking care of ourselves, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And that was one of the things that came up for me. Was like Saturday was I had a discovery call with, I guess you could call him a coach. And then like right after, seemingly like an hour or two, I came down with a cold and I lost my sense of taste for a hot minute, which is never fun, but I've gotten it back. But yeah, I let him know what happened with the catching a cold right after, and there's a quote that resonated that like speaks to that kind of experience, which is disruption follows intention. And so it is kind of like that test of the perseverance that you can bring while still having to face these challenges, and while also taking care of yourself. So like over the past handful of days, like the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction just happened on Saturday. It's now Tuesday. So the past couple of days, it's been like doubts. Like I definitely, when I was like at my lowest, I guess, just like it was like a congestion thing. So I was just like having a hard time sleeping because I couldn't breathe, just feeling like having those thoughts in my head, like, oh my god, I just want to die, or like seriously, I was feeling at my lowest, like my weakest. But it's kind of like in those moments where you're like realizing what is important to you and where your intentions are, and like the mindset that you fall into. So it's like really important to like purge those fears and like get rid of those self-limiting beliefs and lean into the abundant mindset of knowing that the energy that you have will be enough to get you through it, as long as you have the integrity to persevere. So it's a fine line, and it's 4 degrees is at a Cancer degree, and so there's that feeling of wanting to feel secure emotionally as well. And Cancer is connected to the home and your family and your ancestral lineage. And we just had Earth Day yesterday, and so there's that reminder of knowing that there is enough to go around. We don't have to stay in this scarcity mindset that we've been programmed to operate in for so long. Like that is going away. Like Pluto in Aquarius is really wanting us to be in our authentic self. It is in a square to Taurus, which is stability and security and the status quo and having this, routine system in place. And it's going to be that challenge of being authentic and being stable. Like, what systems do we want to create for ourselves, which is that square. Like, we're having to prove something to ourselves with this square, that we can create something for ourselves that resonate and align with us authentically. And Pluto will dip back into Capricorn for a few months in November, which means there could be like the last ditch efforts of like wanting to control the markets and wanting to maybe like push this system of receiving a steady paycheck. The election is going to be in November, so there's going to be like this decision that will probably be on the table as to how to go about like certain employment operations. Who knows? There's going to be like a final grab at like trying to hold on to this old way of sustaining ourselves. And so yeah, the fears and paranoia of like not having a paycheck and like having that scarcity, like how am I going to feed my kids, and where am I going to live, do I have enough money to afford this new place, or whatever the case may be, can definitely be playing out, and it won't be the last time. So it's going to be a matter of practicing digging in and transmuting those dark heavy emotions and moving into the abundance mindset and staying authentic at the same time. Like, there's ways that we can discover and research and really use that Scorpio tactic to research and dig for those clues that will help us thrive and overcome these moments of doubt and adversity. And there's another aspect that's also playing out during this full moon, which if we look to the ruler, the traditional ruler of Scorpio, which is Mars. Mars is about 4 degrees away from Neptune at the moment in Pisces, and so Mars and Neptune in Pisces can speak to like spiritual warrior energy. So really energizing that, like Mars is an energizer and Neptune is unconditional love, oneness, spirituality, acceptance. So really energizing that kind of energy and speaking up and defending the big picture of our oneness and our connectedness, our interconnectedness. And at the same time, Mars and Neptune can speak to letting our guard down. Like, Neptune also dissolves and makes things, not, I don't want to say homogenous, but in a way, it erodes any kind of boundaries, any kind of limitations. It pulls down the barriers. And so with Mars there, I kind of see that as like putting our guard down, letting our guard down. And so that can be taken in a number of different ways, where you're kind of like surrendering and dropping your weapons, and it could be like a like peaceful protest. But yeah, that's another energy to kind of point out with this full moon in Scorpio, because as the moon continues through Scorpio, it's going to come into a trine to Mars and Neptune. It's going to come into a trine with Saturn as well. Saturn's at, I would want to say, 16 degrees. And so it'll hit all the Pisces planets over the next few days, and it will come into a trine with Mars and Neptune, which will really allow those energies of like defending spirituality, coming into oneness, like really understanding the emotions of the collective, and realizing that we do want peace. Like, war and combativeness is not the solution. And so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out, especially with all the events going on around the world, with so many conflicts that are being televised and the ones that are not being televised. Like, we definitely have the farmers in Europe, like UK and Germany, and I want to say Italy too, who and France, who are uprising. The farmers are uprising and like throwing their animals, manure on government property, which, you know, like that's definitely a message. Oh, and like this full moon is taking place at 4 degrees, so like 4 degrees of Scorpio and 4 degrees of Taurus, and with the Pluto in Aquarius, that Pluto's at 2 degrees, and so this is why knowing your exact time of birth is important, because not just your sun and moon is going to be affected, but your rising sign, also known as the ascendant. And the ascendant is an angle point. It's one of the 4 angles in your birth chart. The other 3 are the midheaven, which is also known as the MC, which is typically at the top of your chart. It's between the 9th and 10th house. And that's where you're seen by people that you don't know. So this could be your social media. This could be, you know, your audience. This is like the world stage. And also like just being out and about when you're, you know, in public. That's also considered to be your midheaven, another angle point. And then your DC is the opposite of your ascendant, the opposite of your rising sign. So the DC is where you meet people, so others. It's called the descendant. This is where the sun sets. So that's always going to be opposite of your ascendant. So those degrees are always going to be the same. So if your ascendant is 5 degrees, then your descendant, like if your ascendant is 5 degrees Capricorn, for instance, then your descendant is going to be the opposite sign, which is Cancer, also at 5 degrees. So 5 degrees, Cancer would be the descendant. And then the IC is the 4th angle, which is opposite your midheaven, opposite your MC. And so your exact time of birth is important to know, because the degrees of these angles change every 4 minutes. And then also your moon changes degrees every 2 hours. So the time of birth is important. That way the accuracy of, you know, like how these energies are affecting you can be like really pinpointed. So I just wanted to mention that real quick. Let's see, and another energy that is playing out at the same time, the moon. Okay, I mentioned that the moon will be trining all the Pisces energies, Saturn, Mars, and Neptune, and it's going to be a busy next couple weeks, because as the moon moves through Scorpio and moves through Sagittarius, when it moves through Sagittarius, it's going to be trining all the energies in Aries. So that's going to be a trine to the North Node, which is our destiny point. It's going to trine Mercury, which will be going direct on the 25th. So our communications can become a lot more clearer, we can have more confidence in going forward with our endeavors. The moon will be trining Chiron, our wounded healer. It'll trine Venus, what we desire. It's also connected to feminine energies, and it will be trining Eris, E-R-I-S, the asteroid, the goddess of strife and discord, supposedly. Like I like to call her, what is she? She's like the energy of like calling people out. I mean, she really like kind of exposes the truth in I don't know if you want to call it like a kind of like a twisted way. Like she's the sister of Mars, and so I feel like she's got the energy of like, you know, don't start none and there won't be none. So like same with I think it was a quote from Prince where he said, anyone that messes with tries to play me plays himself. I feel like that's definitely Eris energy, especially if you're familiar. I think it's the story of the Judgment of Paris. Paris was he a soldier of Troy? And it speaks to the War of Troy, the Trojan War. The Trojan War, which came from supposedly like this apple that was thrown into the wedding by Eris. But you can look up the Judgment of Paris and it'll explain it all. Give you that is, you know, part of the mythology which carries over into our modern world in so many different ways. The whole story of the Trojan War, actually. And yeah, the next couple of weeks as the moon trines all the Pisces, Aries, and the Taurus placements, the Sun, Uranus, and Jupiter are in Taurus. It's going to be an active couple of weeks, so it's important to like not overload your schedule. Like take the time to really connect with nature, and get your rest. Stay hydrated, stay centered. Practice those grounding techniques, meditation. Yeah, Brian Coulter has a pretty powerful meditation with Lotta, Astro Lotta. They go into the Jupiter-Uranus energies for the first half of the video, and then the last half is the meditation. So I can add that below. But yeah, so this is like a pretty powerful energy. Like Scorpio is all about power, and so Pluto being the ruler of Scorpio, there can be power struggles. And so yeah, depending on where Pluto in Aquarius sits in your chart is where you can be experiencing power struggles, which, you know, like they are not the funnest energies, and it's a matter of being aware that, you know, these energies are not happening to you because of something that you've done in some sort of like undeserved way. These are just tests from the universe to see how you handle them, and like it will change the timeline for each of us, like how we respond, and we can, you know, move in a compassionate way, and like not coming from an egoic victim mentality way, or, you know, or that. And so based on how we respond, then we will either move on to, it's like a video game, we'll either move on to the next level of test, or we will repeat those tests. You know, like we can think of it that way. That always helps me to like practice and kind of give myself a moment to, you know, like gather my energies, gather my thoughts, gather my words before responding. I know it's not always easy to do, especially if like you're caught in the moment. It's definitely easy, or like it can be easier if like you're responding to an email or whatnot. But when you're out in the real world, in public, and then the pressures and the pressures and like influences around you can be overwhelming to some of us. So give yourself some grace, give others the same kind of grace, and, you know, understand that everybody is going through something right now. Yeah, these twists of tests are real, and, you know, like as long as we can come into the realization that we are here for a purpose. Like if we are still existing right now, that's a true testament to how our purpose is needed in this world. And so it's just a matter of keeping that in mind, and staying focused, and remembering to take care of ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, with what we consume, like food-wise, audibly, visually, yeah, emotionally, energetically. And yeah, a lot of the energy protection is really important, like those practices of cleansing your energy with salt, like on your third eye, your crown, your third eye, your throat, your heart, your sacral, your root, is that it? Solar plexus, your solar plexus is very important. Solar plexus is speaks a lot to the Aries energies right now. That's like where you're coming from, your, you know, your gut, kind of, you know, like how you really feel. So yeah, I think that was all I wanted to mention. Let me see here. Yeah, disruption follows intention. Yeah, these are tests of the, I guess, like you can consider it to be like the level of blessings that will be bestowed. You know, like how much can we handle, you know? And so there's no right or wrong. There's, you know, like, it's like an assessment test, you know, like we are all on different paths. We're at different moments in our timeline. And so we are all here to support one another. And if there's any question or curiosity about how these energies are affecting you, definitely feel free to hit me up. And there's a birth chart calculator on my link tree so that you can take a look at your birth chart and see, you know, what degree your midheaven is at and your ascendant. And, you know, there's a lot of information. Like, the birth chart holds so much powerful insight, and as soon as we become aware of this information, we're able to, like, proceed through life with a lot more certainty and lightness, and, like, not take things personally. So I am definitely an astrology advocate, just so that we can all become conscious co-creators rather than unconscious co-creators. The unconscious co-creating that has been happening can be seen out in the world now, like with all of this fear-mongering and feeling of scarcity is playing out in the world. And if we can just reverse that, which is what we are in the process of doing, then we can consciously co-create a new world, a new earth. And Pam Gregory speaks to that a lot, which is an incredible resource. Pam Gregory, gosh, there's a good handful of them that I like to go to, and I can add some of those below too, just for reference. But yeah, I hope this made sense, and I hope it was helpful. So yeah, definitely feel free to let me know how these have been feeling for you. There's a lot to be excited about if everyone understood the language of astrology. And it's a language, you know, it's a language between the, you know, beings on Earth and the planets. If we could understand this language that is being spoken through the symbology of the planets, like the glyphs and whatnot, then we would be able to see how bright the future is and what to anticipate, and we would be able to proceed with this life with a lot more optimism, because it's bright. Like, we are being like, the planets are orchestrating these energies for us in ways that like, we've already gone through the ringer in this lifetime. Like, we have been, like, subject to, we have been gaining those experiences of the polarities of, like, what we don't want, and now we're coming into the opposite end of what we do want. Our dreams and wishes can come true. So it's exciting to look into. So let me know if you are interested in looking at your own chart and seeing and learning how these energies affect you. Yeah, so thank you again so much for listening. I appreciate all of you staying till the end and listening to my rambles. And yeah, I will see you on the next one. So take care and stay centered and stay hydrated, all that good stuff. All right, all the best. Take care.